And so gratitude, it doesn't just come out of thin air. Gratitude is there. It's there for you to find in this moment. There are things you can be grateful for that you have taken for granted, ignored, or rebelled against your whole life. They're there right now if you just stop and think about them. Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe, and I'm recording this on April 30th, which is Sophie's birthday. And I was thinking as I was figuring out what I wanted to talk about today, and just the word gratitude. The word gratitude kept coming up for me over and over and over. So that's what we're going to focus on in this episode. And obviously, it's Sophie's birthday, so I have so much to be grateful for. Not only the fact that she's in my life and the amazing kids that we have, but the fact that she stuck with me through so many of the trials and tribulations you guys have heard of. And, today I'm taking a half day at work, and we're going to celebrate Sophie in Corona times. So that means barbecuing upstairs and being in our backyard, and the kids being able to jump in a pool, and I'm incredibly grateful that we get to do that. And I'll talk about how we got here in a little bit too, but the fact that there's a backyard is new for us. The fact that there's a pool is new for us. The fact that we get to spend time, just the family, is kind of new for us. And in that way, with all the understanding and the empathy and the compassion for everybody directly affected by Corona right now as I'm speaking, I'm grateful I have this opportunity to connect in this way, and that we've had so many hours more than ever before with the kids during this time. And in being grateful for that, I recognize the gratitude I have for the work it took to get here. Because if you've listened to my story, you know that my story didn't start out with a house with a backyard and a pool and a wife who loved me and kids who are happy most of the time and me not wanting to yell a lot, It's not. And we're going to talk about that more, but I have to be grateful every day. And, you've heard about me talking about the 5-minute journal that I do every day. The reason I like having gratitude as part of my early wake-up kind of ceremony every day is to recognize the fruits of the labor. And if I don't stop and pay attention to the fruits, then the work seems meaningless. And on top of that, the reason I'm taking a half a day instead of not working at all is because I'm grateful for the people that we get to serve here at Ignited. I get so many messages from you, so many DMs and so many emails and so many Facebook messages from people who have listened to the podcast or have taken a workshop or have listened to stories from Sophie and I and just connect. And I'm incredibly grateful that I get to serve, because that's not where my life used to be. My life used to not just be self-centered, but it used to always look for what isn't and what wasn't good enough. If I had a girlfriend, I was constantly worried that she was going to leave me, or I was constantly paying attention to what wasn't working in the relationship. When I moved, I was constantly looking for the things that I wasn't getting and the things that I was missing. And, the grass is always greener was the way that I lived. The glass was half full always. It was kind of the place that I was coming from. And weirdly, it wasn't until I lost almost everything in my life, right? Lost my freedom, lost any money I had, lost my ability to talk to any of my friends and my family, etc. Lost hope, because I was looking at, over a decade, somewhere between 13 and 18 years in prison. It wasn't until I lost almost everything that something in my head allowed me to start appreciating the small things. Some of the small things that I never even looked at or I took completely for granted, or even some of the small things that I rebelled against. So some of you know, again, in the story, just the sense of freedom. Like I remember coming out of jail and saying, I will do whatever I need to do to never go back there. But the thing is, that was in 2006, and I could pretty much guarantee that nobody in my life was certain that I would never end up back there. And we're 14 years later, and I'm not. So I'm grateful for that. And for the fact that even I was willing to do any job and I couldn't get one. And so I went back to school, a thing that I hated. I'm grateful that I had the wherewithal, that my parents helped and support me to be able to do that, right? Because without them, the school thing that I'd rebelled against in my whole life wouldn't have brought me all the incredible knowledge and success and experience that I've had now. But there was another piece along with recognizing what I should be grateful for, and that was the accountability. And on a day like today, when I have to recognize the balance between being there for my wife and celebrating her birthday, and I woke up this morning and tried to get flowers, although there are no flowers being sold anywhere in LA right now. So I couldn't get flowers, but I got us other stuff to celebrate her. And yet I'm so committed to the work that I have to be accountable, and I have to be able to find happiness in that balance, right? But it wasn't until I found accountability along with the gratitude that the power really came. Some of you might have listened to the online free workshop I do live almost every week now on Fridays. And I talk about a conversation with my dad where I was facing those 13, 18 years in prison, 13 felony counts. I was in rehab and relapsed in rehab. And I was lying to my dad about everything that was going on. And then something came over me and I became accountable for the first time. I said, you know what? I'm not telling you the truth. I got kicked out of rehab because I used. And that moment was a moment of vulnerability and weakness that brought incredible power out of it, because everything changed after that point in time. Now, here's the thing. The reason I wanted to go down this path is I get questions, I get emails, I get stories from a lot of you who are seeking your own path to where I've got to. And I don't know if that means a house with a family and a pool. I don't know what that means for you, but you have a sense that where you are right now is not where you need to be. And first of all, I appreciate the emails and the messages. And I applaud you for even seeking that kind of success in your life, because I know for a lot of us, hopelessness is one of the first things that sets in and we stop even looking. It's why one of the first level in my hero code in our Ignited programs is the seeker level. Seeking alone suggests that you have hope, because if you're looking for a better life, you have a hope for it. And so I applaud you for doing that. And I also hear you constantly asking for permission to take it. First of all, you ask me for permission. In the messages, you say to me in really subtle, indirect ways, is it even okay that I'm going for this? But then you ask for explicit permission sometimes. So I hear from women and or men who say husbands that won't let you spend money on self-improvement you want, who don't support your path, or wives who threaten to leave you if you screw up again. Bosses that set up scenarios at work that feel like traps but don't recognize it and don't appreciate the things that you do, or friends who aren't stepping up to the plate to let you become your best self. Well, here's the thing, and I didn't learn this for a really, really long time, but none of those people are going to ever step up to the plate for you until you step up for yourself. And honestly, they shouldn't. Because if you're still in a place where you're looking for other people to give you permission to be happy, then you need to look inside. And I don't mean that has to get you to a place where you lost almost everything like I did in order to realize that there are small things you need to be grateful for and take accountability for every step in your way. You don't have to get to that place. You can start right now. You know, if your partner is not letting you participate in things that bring you joy or can help you improve where you are in life, you got to ask yourself more a question about what's going on in your partnership and what you've allowed to happen over years or maybe decades. Or maybe ask, why is it that the person in your life doesn't trust you with these choices? Right? Accountability and understanding. In Ignited, we talk about honest exploration as the first step. Why are you struggling in the way that you're struggling right now? How much of that is purely because of what you're allowing to happen? How much of it is purely because of things you're not doing? And once you recognize that balance, that balance of understanding and accountability and how they work together, you can start recognizing the power that you have, the good that's within you. And you can start taking responsibility for the places that you need to get better. Like, we're not all good at everything. That's okay, right? I didn't know how to study when I got out of jail. It took me work to figure that out. I was at best a B-, C+ student. It's not that I wasn't smart. I just didn't know how to do the work in school. I had to get better at that, but nobody could do that for me. You've heard the story with Sophie. I didn't know how to be a good husband. Full disclosure, still learning how to get better. That's my responsibility. Once you recognize those things, the good you have inside you and the power you have to take responsibility for where you still need to get better, you can go all in. You can rock that combination. You can say, okay, let me see where I'm not experiencing joy, fulfillment, etc. in my life. Let me understand why that's happening, and then let me go fix it. If you do that, you'll never search for approval from other people. You'll never ask other people if it's okay that you want to do these things for self-improvement. You will absolutely make them part of your journey, and you wouldn't do things to hurt them. But it's you who's accountable for this. And so gratitude, it doesn't just come out of thin air. Gratitude is there. It's there for you to find in this moment. There are things you can be grateful for that you have taken for granted, ignored, or rebelled against your whole life. They're there right now if you just stop and think about them. And that's what I urge you to do. Take out a piece of paper and write down some of the things that you're grateful for. Like, I'm grateful for the motorcycle accident that broke my leg and had me not walk for a year, because without that, I wouldn't have started my recovery journey that ended me beating addiction. What are some of these things you can start putting down gratitude for? And then, and this is the harder part of today, what are some things that are standing in your way that you can take accountability for? And like I mentioned before, that might be somebody who you've looked at as the hurdle up until now, but why are you allowing them to be a hurdle? Let's be accountable for what we're doing moving forward, even if we understand that the path to get here was not all our doing. And especially in the midst of what we're going through right now with Corona or COVID-19, what can you be accountable for? What can you do to make your life that much better in the middle of this crisis? Because trust me, when this ends and life starts rolling back, the person you are right now, what you allow to happen, what you expect of yourself, what you believe is possible for you and the people around you, it's going to roll into the next phase. So take this opportunity, take this time to look inward, find your power. And then I can't wait to hear about your successes. So send me any messages of what you've discovered in doing this little exercise, right? The things you're grateful for that you may have been ignoring or even rebelling against, and the hurdles that have been seemingly set in your path that you can take some accountability for. Would love to hear back from you guys. Love you all so much. Have a great weekend and see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.